Carla and Lou here from Games, Brains and a Head-Banging Life. gbhbl.com for short. And it is the Nasties, episode 63. Can you believe it? We are so close, counting down. And if you go way back, probably earlier videos, much earlier videos, we said this one we would leave to last because we didn't really want to watch it. Because the reason around it for it to be on the Nasty list and the reason why it's still got no UK release was just incredibly off-putting. And it's because ultimately this is one that is there for one reason and one reason only. Racism. Hefty amount of racism. And truth be told, I don't want to watch that kind of film. No. I don't want to watch a movie that I thought would be just a group of black people being racially abused, physically, mentally abused by a load of white people. That did not appeal. Even if it kind of had an ending that kind of like had them fight back. Yeah. I didn't think it. I don't. That's not something I enjoy. That's, you know, home invasion stuff is not my jam. Home invasion with a ton of racism put in, even less. Absolutely. So the reason why we've decided to do it early is as simple as this. I came across a copy of this that was openly available in the UK in great quality, and I was like, shit, this may not exist for long here. Yeah. I better get on. We better go on this. Watch it. You know. And this was a shocker, people. It really was. This is a good film. This is a good film with great acting, generally layered nuances in regards to issues and racism and things like that, with one of my favourite cop portrayals I've ever seen in a movie, let alone a Nasty. I absolutely adored the cop in it. There's a point in this movie where we both audibly gasped. Do you remember that? Yes. Yes. We both went, oh. And that when I knew that this movie had us in the palm of our hand. There are things I don't like about it. And weirdly enough, it's not the hefty racism, because I think in the context of the movie, it makes a lot of sense. In a way that like Django Unchained does and stuff like that. It's not, I'm not comparing the two. But obviously, movies of that ilk. American History X, things like that. Yeah. You know, where the racism exists because one will make a point and it's about this and so on. But what I didn't expect was its main character, the white man in question, would have such underlying issues that we clocked and realised that was like, this is why you are the way you are. And that was amazing. But there's also a dignity with the black people in this movie that's done really, really well. And ultimately as well, it does what you need, which is you want the fuckers to get their comeuppance. And they do. This is The Last House on the Left, but without the sadness. Because we do get an incredible scene where with the cops and all that. Oh man, I want to talk about it because I really like this movie. I did not expect to. 1977 grindhouse blaxploitation thriller directed by Robert A. Anderson. Of course, it was denied a British theatrical release in 1981. But here's where it all went wrong. A video release the following year sneaked out. Hence why we have our rating system these days, allowing the public brief access to the film. And that was it. Boom! Nasty list outlawed completely. To date, no UK re-release, and this was successfully prosecuted. I now heavily disagree with that. I heavily disagree with it being prosecuted. Like, or having no UK re-release to date. In the sense that I feel like if you watch this with one eye on it, you'll be like, my God, that's an unnecessary amount of racism. Because it is an unnecessary amount of racism. But I think if you watch it, you can be like, oh, okay. And you can see it in context at times. And the hypocrisy of the hypocrisy is intense. That's what really stopped us in our tracks at the time. We were like, good God. Like, this isn't like a ha. This is like the hypocrisy of the main villains of this piece was incredible. But what's cool as well is to also see how they avoid racism in general terms. It's a bad group of people being bad.
Yeah, because sometimes like the outlying characters don't show any racist overtones. So like the local shopkeeper,
this is a family that exists in the community and are well liked, respected, and all of that. We see that because as well, like you say, it's a bit ham-fisted, but ultimately we do have the two young children of two different families. One the son of the cop, one the son of the black family, the preacher, and play together, are friends. And you can say it's a bit ham-fisted, but I think it works in the context of this movie to show you that the racial divide in this year and this release was down. It wasn't there for these people and stuff like that. But it exists because we do have characters as well on the within the family who harbour some resentment towards a white person as well, and that's because they're of a certain age. Yeah. And I totally get that too. Look at the era.
Yeah.
We ain't that far removed, man. No. We ain't far removed. We are two white people going to talk about this though, so we can only give us so much context to a certain degree. I guess I'm not going to say, I would never say that you shouldn't be offended by this if you are, say, a person of colour, or even if you are just, like I said, I expected it to be a horrible experience, and it is to a certain degree. As I'm going to touch and mention one or two things that I think the film should not have included, and it would have made it a better movie. Because they're too much for me. It was too much for me. But for the most part, it is hugely offensive. Because we're not just saying, this is not just one or two racist terms. No. The amount of different racial terms that are pulled out of nowhere is actually startling. Like a fucking thesaurus of racist terms. Yeah. You know? That was a real whoa kind of thing, you know? It, of course, is notable for the only video nasty to appear on the list for the language. Because violence and gore in this are actually pretty much tame. Compared
to what?
Way compared. Yeah. But even the stuff we do see is very, very tame. Even the certain level of...
the sexual assault you don't see.
Like, and even this level of, like, abuse towards the family is always more implied than actually delivered. We actually started to realise at a certain point that we thought the main guy didn't have the balls to actually do anything. Because it was always like, oh, I'll do this to you and so on. I think the film clocked that, and that's why they do something with him later in the movie. That's one of the things I wish wasn't in it. Because I have no justification or way to behave around that. We are going to quickly fly through the cast, because it is a surprisingly good cast. William Sanderson is the main villain. Jesse Lee Kane. He was great. He was great. He really was. I really, really would love to hear conversations about the experience, his experience, how he felt, comfortability, doing what he did in this movie. You will hate his guts, and you will want him dead. Yeah. And that was exactly what he needed to be. But he's so fucking nuanced. You know, when he loses his cool, when he's in dangerous situations himself, and how basically he harbours, he harbours a grudge towards black people because his mother fell in love and left his father, and his father was heavily racist, and it printed upon him, and we know how important that aspect is in life today in the year of 2023. So do you know what I mean? We absolutely get that. We really, so that to me is the nuances. I worried that might make him seem sympathetic. No, because he's a piece of shit who was in prison already, because it's him and the other two, what was it? Yeah, Pepe Hearn as Navarro and Nick Harden as... No, it's not. It's Chino? No, Ling. Peter Yoshida as Ling and Pepe Hearn as Navarro, who are part of his crew that all escape prison. Yeah. That's the hypocrisy we've talked about. Yeah. His crew. 3 villains, all with different levels of crime. So we get their crimes read out at the start of the movie because they break out of prison and the cops are already on their tail as they drive across country, causing mayhem as they go along. But only we're dealing with a white Caucasian male here, an Asian male, and Hispanic male, and that kind of thing. And it's that hypocrisy there, that they're villains as well. Yeah. But like, it's all targeted against a person of colour more than anything else. So it is hilarious, like that kind of thing. Those two guys, they get what they deserve as well. They really do. One gets shot in the dick, which is a nice, like, particular pleasure thing as well. But there's no question, because there's an early point where I wondered if, I think it's Navarro more particularly, where I thought maybe they were going to like, they were going to do a thing where it was like he wasn't okay with a certain level of racism. But ultimately, this film wants you to hate all 3 of them. Yeah. And they do that really, really well. Robert Judd as Ted Turner. This is the main guy of the movie. This is the father, the preacher, a stoic black man, easily respectable, clearly loved by his family in the community and all that. He's brilliant. Yeah. He's brilliant. The dignity he holds in this movie, but also the brilliance of having it when he's forced to slip into caricature of what a black man should be by William Sanderson is incredible. Yeah. So I'm going to touch upon something here that I think consistently causes this movie a problem, and it's the cover. Have you seen the cover they do for this? This is the cover. Now while that scene, so to speak, is in the movie to a degree, it's not done like it is in that cover, and I think that cover sums up. Right, I explain what I thought. You have a different view what you thought this movie was going to be like. Fight for your life. Remember you talked about it beforehand. Explain that, because I always thought it was quite interesting.
I thought it was just... I thought it was like a prison film.
Yep.
Where they were just like literally left to fight each other in prison, and like the guards didn't care. Like it was black and white violence in prison.
Yeah.
But it was like uber violent, because based by the cover, I just assumed it was fight for your life. It was...
Yeah, because the cover has...
racism.
It has Ted and Jesse Kane topless in a fist fight. That is not how it goes down. That is not how it goes down at all. And it doesn't look good. And it's all the name, Fight for Your Life. It doesn't sound particularly clever or anything like that. Catherine Peppers as Mrs. Turner. Leela Small as Grandma Turner.
Yeah, man, she's wicked.
After my heart, man. Her total disdain for Kane and his type, and the shit she does, and the way she speaks to him, and the fact that he almost seems scared of her. Bear in mind, she's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He seems frightened of her. And I think that's his almost like natural respect for an elder breaking through is brilliant. Their banner is awesome. Yvonne Ross as Corey Turner. Reggie Rock Bythewood as Floyd Turner. That's the youngest boy. I really like him and his father's banter as well, because he's got a lot of obsession with Muhammad Ali and elements like that. So there's a lot of discussion, because Ted basically is always kind of trying to play down fighting with your fists, like talking and men of peace and friendliness and all of that.
Well, he probably already knows that as a young black man, if he starts using his fists, he's going to get in a lot more trouble than a white counterpart.
He's in his 50s.
So he's seen so much. So.
He's seen so much, absolutely that, you know. And you do kind of get like elements based on the walls. For example, like there's a picture of an American president on the wall. I think it was JFK. But I'm not sure if that's right for the era. Maybe it was, but there's an American president, but there's also Martin Luther King, of course, but also Virgin Mary, Jesus Christ, and so on. So you kind of get all those elements that they are upstanding American citizens, that, but also, you know, Martin Luther King, of course, would have had such an impact upon them, but who also God-fearing. They believe in God and stuff like that. And we've got Ramon Sanders as Val Turner. Massive shout here because he deserves it. I thought it was funny that he was in the cast. Queenie Edeldenson as the dog.
Oh.
Yeah, the dog. Yeah, the dog plays a part in this. Daniel Feraldo as Chino, Peter Yoshida as Ling, Bonnie Martin as Karen, David Cargill as Lieutenant Riley, Richard A. Rubin as Captain Hamilton, David DeLoe as Joey, Peppy Hearn as Navarra, and Nick Harden as Tony. So basically, yeah, it's hateful rednecks, gone from jail. We're just going to fly through this story because we're going to talk about the things we want. Gone from jail, travel across country, doing a bit of naughtiness along the way, but end up in a small town where they need to hide out for a bit so they can cross into the Canadian border and end up home invading this this family, the Turners family, as they're going to have like Sunday dinner and stuff, and holding them hostage. And it's the events that go from there, and a lot of it is exploitative. It's gritty to entertain and what they do, but there are some incredibly shocking moments, stuff that's done really, really well. One of the things that's built up quite nicely is the relationship between Floyd and Joey, two young boys. And like, there's a great sequence where early on they set up a code word that would mean we're in trouble. I'm in trouble, like, or stop. And they make a joke about not using it because if you, boy who cried wolf. That later comes back in a brilliant way, stunning way. We were like, oh my God, we were so excited. We felt like this was going to be really, really important.
It's something that still happens now, like with like the word, if you go into a pub. Angela. If you ask for Angela at a pub bar, people know that's a code for I'm not comfortable.
Get me out of here.
Can you get me out of here? Which I think is so clever. Like, there's no kind of like extroverted, give me help. Just one word that you wouldn't. Yeah, it's simple enough.
It's really, really simple, and it's done brilliantly here. As Joey kind of hangs around the house, sees the trouble, and and then makes a run for basically going to tell townspeople, the police, and so on. What we didn't expect was at the same time is Ling had chased off a friend of the family who also happens to be a white woman and killed her, and he's coming back through the woods, runs and sees Joey running, and like he killed Joey, and we were shocked, man. We were shocked. But it's a scene that follows it that took our breath away, because basically we've got this wonderful police officer, this great detective, Captain Hamilton, I think it is. It's Hamilton or Riley. I can't remember which one it is. But he's so good, and we've been drip-fed throughout the movie that he's so good that he's hated by all the other cops.
Yeah.
Because not even cops can get away with it. Like they're driving fast, and he complains about the speed and stuff like that. And basically, he's disliked by cops because he's kind of killing corruption and stuff like that. We were in love with him straight away for that. We loved it. They set him up as a holier-than-thou character, and inevitably a holier-than-thou character will fall. We know that in some way. But basically, he eventually tracks him to this town, and there's a great thing where they can't quite put together where Sanderson and the rest of them could have gone. Kane could have gone. But it's putting the clues together, and they realise there's a bicycle that's been outside the shop for a long time, and it shouldn't still be there. Who leaves the bike there? And that's how we start to piece together details. Brilliant. Brilliant. The level of work that goes into this. But man, there's a great scene where it must be Lieutenant Riley, because he's just the cop of the town, the sheriff of the town. When he's sort of like, and he turns a picture around about his kid, they're talking about kids, and it's Joey. And we audibly gasped.
We're like, no.
Absolutely surprising. You know, that does eventually lead to the end. There is eventually the Turners overpower and start to make their revenge, but they want revenge. They decide to pretend to the cops who have all gathered outside that they're still hostages. And then start to mete out a little bit of punishment to the baddies. They deserve it, because before this we got what I consider one of the necessary scenes, which is where Kane rapes one of the women.
All three of them rape.
All three of them rape her. They'll take turns with her. Really could have done without it. Didn't think we needed it. Didn't think we needed this sudden level of extra violence and destruction upon this family. It didn't really, really didn't need it. But eventually it does. They're trying to listen in, the cops, using a radar dish to try and listen in. And eventually it's Hamilton, I think, who ends up listening on earphones, and he hears that the Turners have turned the tables, basically, and pretends he didn't hear anything. And we were like, shit, what a conundrum for the man to be in. What a conundrum to be. And by this point as well, no, Joey hasn't been found. A cop finds Joey and brings him back, which causes the sheriff to go on a rampage. He ends up getting killed, which leads to Kane and Ted out in the backyard fist fighting, which is that thing. But it does eventually lead to basically Kane getting shot, because Ted ends up with a gun, and the cop has the gun trained at him, and he lowers it as if to say, this guy deserves it. And I find that fascinatingly brilliant to watch. Where like even he, like, how far is too far? This poor family and have been put through this, and admittedly you could argue he hasn't seen what we've seen, but like he's got enough.
Well, he knows the level.
He knows the level, and he knows what. Here's the thing: what was really important. He knows what Kane is like, because he even goes to visit Kane's cellmate to find out more details, so he can put all of that together and stuff. And that's kind of where the movie ends. And we were shocked. We were shocked that we liked it so much. That it was such I don't want to say clever, because that might be a strong word, but a well put together movie that, while exploitative and unnecessarily mean at times, and perhaps too much of racism, really to me tried to tell a more nuanced story. Whether or not it came across brilliantly, whether or not it works for everybody, I'm not too sure. There were times it didn't work for me. There were times where I think it slowed down a bit as well. You're like, well, something happened here. Let's move stuff on and so on. And like I said, I don't like the rape part. I really don't. Didn't think it was needed. I don't think they needed that extra, because that's something she's going to have to live with for the rest of her life. And I didn't want that for them, because I liked the Turners. I really, really did like the Turners. But I also didn't love the kind of like fist fighty bit, I don't think it was necessary. I know they were trying to do a whole thing where like Ted had to revert. And they did that throughout as well, where like Kane kind of mocks him and forces him to speak in a caricature style of a black man. But later on, Ted kind of reverts back to that on his own. Now you could argue that's because he's getting to do it by choice. But I would also say, it's like, no, this man, I wanted this man, and this is why I think they got it wrong, to be a strike in the face even at the end. To be like, I'm better than you. Instead they kind of revert to like, they're both animals. And I didn't want that for him. It hurt me a little bit. I know there's a bit where he stands up straight and says like, I'm not like you and all that. I wanted it jammed in. I wanted Kane to be the pathetic one, on his knees.
Yeah.
While this man who could maybe put him down spares his fist, even after all the horror that's gone through, because I'm better than you, and nothing to me, and I won't allow you to turn me into that animal. You know?
Yeah, that's an extra.
That's what I wanted. Yeah. That's where I think they really missed that trick, you know? But overall, it's still a really well done movie. A heavily dislikable main set of bad guys, a heavily likable main set of good guys, with in between these cops that are just great. We were heartbroken for the death of Joey. We wondered, now maybe he's still alive and he's just badly hurt. Yeah, and it's like, no, he's not. And it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, you did that.
It really, really is powerful stuff. Yeah. I didn't expect this.
No, definitely not.
I did not expect this. And it was like, oh, wow, this was not what we thought. And that's great. I hope it can one day maybe get a fairer treatment and be released and seen in a way, obviously with warnings and all of that.
With some background interviews and stuff.
Yeah, maybe with special features. I know there's been some rejection of it by the director these days and stuff like that. Of course there would be. Times have changed. This sort of level of abuse, racial abuse, is unnecessary. That's the problem as well when it comes down to it. You've got to look at it this way. We've done home invasion stuff, and it can be violent and it can be abusive, and I think without race.
Yeah, and I think sometimes maybe making all the white police officers like knights in shining armour maybe a little bit too clear cut.
Interesting, yeah.
Because obviously we know that the case that's not
the case. Are you kidding me? This is 77. The 90s haven't come around yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's certainly not the case.
So yeah, that's my only other thought of cops good. I
feel like we can't do this justice. No. That's the thing is, I feel like no matter how many times we try and pick apart what we think worked and what we didn't work, we'll end up coming across something that kind of triggers and goes, yeah, I'm not too sure about that part over here. For example, like, why when Ling is chasing the girl through the woods, did her top have to be ripped? Yeah. So her breasts are exposed. Yeah. Like, stuff like that, exploitive. Fine for a nasty, but because, like I said, we have so many other nuanced parts of the movie, they always feel extra exploitative. Yeah, a bit cheap. Cheap. Yeah, that's the kind of term they use there. Yeah. But ultimately, go back to it again, we're two white people watching this, and I'm not saying that I think it. I think I like it because I expected to hate it, and I ended up thinking it was a good movie with things to say, but man, oh man, could have been done better, smarter, and certainly maybe needs a lot more analysis from smarter people than us, I think. Yeah, really does. Definitely. But it was a surprise. From what either of us expected, we were always putting this one off. So to get it out of the way and get it done is satisfying, because we're now down to single figures, which is really fucking cool. But just because it's not as bad as you think, and it's not what you think. Yeah. So maybe give it a shot if you can find it, if it's still available, or at least what I found it, YouTube. And tell us what you think, really. Do you harbour a completely different view? Do you think it's downright disgusting and disgraceful? Or do you kind of see elements that we see where we think, shit, there's some merit to some of the elements of what this film is trying to say? It's a really difficult one to talk about. It really is, because I automatically almost feel uncomfortable because of it. But we wanted to do it. It was part of this list. If we can talk about other egregious parts of violence and horror and stuff like that, racism is absolutely an aspect of that. Yeah. This is Fight for Your Life, 1977, one of the more infamous video nasties on the list. Let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com, as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?